When did the "I crave attention" kid in your life go way too far? I knew this girl in high school who was the queen of obnoxious and attention-seeking behavior. She was constantly trying to get people's attention, from screaming loudly in the hall to crying hard over sad memes at lunch. She was so annoying, but unfortunately, many people bought and fed into her histrionics. Let's call her Cryface. I never really liked Cryface. She came off as fake and kind of rude. I tried to ignore her for the most part, but the absolute turning point for me was her over-the-top behavior at a choir concert junior year. It was 20 minutes before the concert was set to begin, and all the kids were practicing getting on the risers, about 100 people. Suddenly, Cryface's mom entered the auditorium, briskly walked to the director, and whispered something in his ear. The director nodded and called Cryface off the riser. When Cryface got down, the mom whispered something to her. All of a sudden, Cryface let out a blood-curdling scream and sprinted for the exit. She got halfway before collapsing to the ground, wailing. She kept yelling, oh my God," over and over again. The mom came up behind her, pulled her up by the elbow, and rushed out. Naturally, everyone in the choir thought something horrible had happened. Some friends had texted her, but Cryface would only respond with cryptic messages like, "Nothing will ever be the same," and "Why couldn't it have been me?" Rumors spread that her father and little sister had burned to death in a car wreck. With a reaction like that, what else could it be? People were talking about organizing a carpool to attend the funeral and taking friendship shifts so someone would always be available to comfort her. I even agreed to a couple shifts. Heck, the entire choir said a group prayer for her before the concert, and this was at a public school. We were all so worried. Now, these thoughts would have been incredibly kind if that was what happened. But nope. Turns out Cryface's little sister was diagnosed with diabetes. The sister didn't go to the hospital, she didn't get sick and need medical attention. The family had only received the call that the scheduled medical test came back positive for diabetes. The mom came to tell Cryface because the family had decided to skip the choir concert so they could meet with the doctor and talk about the medical diagnosis. I had a friend growing up called Jody. She would always lie about things to get attention. As we grew up and went to different schools, we grew apart. Once I turned 17, I got into contact with her in hopes of getting to know her again. I assumed that because she was 17, that she had grown up and stopped trying to get attention. I also had other friends that I would see, and she was definitely jealous. Then she dropped a bombshell. Her dad was dying. I was devastated for her and spent less time with my own friends as I felt that she needed me more. As soon as she would find out I was with my friends, she would cry and ask me to come over as she was depressed. She also claimed that she was pregnant with a girl and that she had lost her when she was almost 4 months pregnant. She would cry to me all the time about her baby girl and would cry as she was scared to lose her dad. Mother's Day would come and she would talk about how this should be her day and she should have had a baby girl by now. She also took a lot of time off work to be with her dad, and her work was very supportive of her. It all came crashing down when she got a phone call from her co-worker to ask how her dad was. Jody cried and said that her dad didn't have long left and that he had forgotten who she was when she saw him last. She said that she wanted it to end and for it to be all over. I remember crying as I was scared for her and felt helpless. I went home, and the next day, she phoned and asked me to get to her house straight away. She sat me down and told me that she had made it all up about her dad dying and that she never lost a baby. She said that she was only telling me this because her coworker had grown worried for her and came to her house to have a word with Jody's mom so she could have more time off work. Her mother wasn't at home, so Jody knew she couldn't keep lying anymore. I was honestly scared of her at that point, as I knew that if I had gotten mad, she probably would have made something up about me because that's how she is. I asked where her dad was, and he obviously wasn't at the hospital, but he was on a business trip. She said that the reason why she lied was because she loved all the attention that she was getting from everyone, and that it started because she wanted a day off work, which turned into weeks. The scary part about her lying for attention was that it was like she was starting to believe it all herself. I wish that I could explain it more, but this is already a lot to read. Every time he was rejected by a girl, a guy I knew used to either have a fake medical emergency or send out a mass text saying he was about to hurt himself. An example of the first case, A girl he was with for a grand total of 48 hours dumped him for having a hand-drawn hentai collection. She dumped him at an In-N-Out location in front of all of us. He went out to his car first, and as we followed shortly after, we see his legs hanging out of his open car door, violently convulsing. Mid-seizure, he stopped and asked this girl to go to the hospital with him. She declined, rather nonplussed, and left. He kept it up for a few minutes after that, but made a speedy recovery once he realized she wasn't coming back. As for the second case, and the instance where he really went all out, there was a girl he was in love with for a few weeks, but hopelessly out of his league. He asked her out, and she said no. Our circle of friends get the mass text saying that he was at the Riverwalk Bridge, ready to jump. In the past, we'd find him after an hour or two at the local pizza joint or hiding at his mom's, but we raced down there nonetheless. We show up at the bridge and notice his glasses sitting on the handrail. I peer over the side and see this dude's Flavortown shirt. He always wore this black button-up with flames on the bottom, discarded on the sidewalk. This started to seem pretty serious, so we call the cops, his mom, etc. About 20 minutes later, we find him shirtless, lying half in the water, E.T. style, and pretending to be unalive. We had trouble reviving him. He was quite clearly breathing. But he suddenly regained consciousness after one of the cops gave him a sternum rub. We stopped hanging around him after that. This was in middle school. There is this kid. Let's call him Joey. Joey is an attention-seeking loon that can't spend a minute without opening his mouth. He would always try to talk crap about other people saying that he wants to fight them, but when they actually try to fight him, he backs down. He always disrupts the class by yelling out his Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Joey and I were in the same band class. It was one of those classes where 2 instrument groups would be paired. Yes, it was in 6th grade beginner's band. He played the clarinet and I played the trumpet. One day in band, we had to go one by one to do a full front and back page song paired with the opposing instrument. So my band director paired me up with Joey, Joy. We had to play the piece together. He played all of the wrong notes while I was doing good. When we got to the 74th measure, the director stopped us and told Joey to stop playing and told me to keep playing. As I played through the piece, Joey was red as a tomato. Then when I made it to the 60th measure, he started to make grunting sounds. The grunting turned into tapping his foot and the foot tapping turned to stomping. I noticed it, and everyone was looking at him with a "what the hell" face. I stopped playing and he just picked his clarinet up and started to play random notes. Then when everyone was telling him to stop, and the director took his piece away, he just turned twice as red. Then, he just threw his clarinet at me full throttle. It didn't hit me, but it hit a girl sitting behind me. I went to go check on her because it hit her pretty hard. If you held a clarinet before, it's sort of heavy. My director just grabbed him and took him to the principal's office. The girl's nose was bleeding badly and we went to get napkins. Later on that day, we heard from a friend that he was suspended for 2 weeks for that and disrupting the class many times. Today, he dropped out of high school to become a rapper. I checked his SoundCloud and his YouTube, and they aren't doing so good. I hope he has a secondary job so he won't spend his whole life on rapping. He was a jerk. I had a couple of pet goats and he would come over and bully them all the time. He'd poke them through the fence with sticks, throw rocks at them, spook them with loud noises. But he'd never go into the pen. He was too scared of them. He should have known better. He was 16. One day we're all inside and we hear this blood-curdling scream. In comes the kid screaming at the top of his lungs. The goat! The goat is after me! Help! We turn to see the big billy goat staring at him through the sliding glass door. Every once in a while it'd headbutt the glass. Now this was a very docile animal. He'd have never hurt a fly, but he was out for that boy's blood. It turns out that the kid had been torturing the goat. He had him pinned up against the wall of the pen, throwing rocks and sticks at its testicles to see if he could hit them. The goat came after him, scaled the fence, and chased him across 3 acres of land and into the house. The kid waited for 2 hours for the goat to go away, but it never did. Anytime he opened a door to try to sneak away, the goat was right there trying to attack him. Eventually, the goat disappeared, and the kid tried to sneak out a window feet first, and once again started screaming because the goat was right there, headbutting his backside as he climbed out. It was absolutely liberating. My ex-roommate did a whole lot of stupid crap for attention. She constantly posted things on social media like, "The world would be better off without me," "Nobody wants me alive," etc. But she always refused to get actual help. When her boyfriend broke up with her, she went around telling everyone that she broke up with him after he assaulted her. She always bragged to people she had just met about how many guys she had been with, how much she loved weed and alcohol, etc. She got engaged to her Tinder F-buddy she had only known for a few months. And she made me homeless because her engagement was supposed to be a secret from her parents. They found out and she blamed me. So she made a whole bunch of crap up about me emotionally abusing her, even though that's what she was doing to me the entire time I lived with her. That way her parents would kick me out. They owned the loft we were staying in. I haven't spoken to her since I was kicked out, but from what I hear from other people, the psycho is going nowhere in life. She got kicked out of her first choice university, dropped out of community college after failing all of her classes her first semester, and has been stuck as a cashier at a crappy grocery store for the past 2 years. Oh, and her Tinder F-buddy broke the engagement with her right after I was made homeless. Guess he finally grew a brain and realized she's insane. My little brother is a few years younger than me. He used to come into my room to harass me all the time, and my parents never allowed me to have a lock. He was around 10 when I started propping a piano stand under my doorknob to keep people out. I'm so sick of people saying it was a fire hazard. You'd use whatever you could too if your parents never knocked, and your brother used to shoot you with airsoft guns. Little brother pushed the door and the piano stand was at the knob. I ignored it before all I heard was the loudest bang followed by a massive thud. I opened the door to see him laying on the floor holding his face and crying. Apparently, he decided that he could break down my door like in the movies by throwing himself against it after running from down the hall. But this dummy didn't just throw his shoulder or kick it. He threw his entire body against it like a squirrel going for a tree. Arms and legs out, face first. I got blamed for it, but it was worth it. Only time I ever laughed that hard at his expense again was when he tried to fart into my room and crapped himself about 2 years later. I don't know if this counts, but here goes nothing. There is this girl I've known since around first grade. We'll call her Karen. Ever since I can remember, she's wanted to be special and popular and quirky. It was really freaking annoying, but I let it slide the first few years of our friendship. She also copied everyone left and right if she thought that what they were doing would boost her social status. It did not. The first event in which I really noticed her habit of copying others was when we had a Teach the Teacher project in 3rd grade. I was always known for my ability to draw, and so I did an art class segment where I taught the class how to draw some little markers with faces. It was fun. I was absent the next day, so I didn't get to see some of my friends' presentations. I come to school the day after, and my friends run up to me telling me that Karen did the exact same thing, only she drew something from a book. I was pissed, but got over it. The next time she copied me was when I was really getting into Harry Potter. She invited me over for a sleepover, and I accepted. I suggested she take the sorting hat test, and she got Hufflepuff. She did not accept this as an answer, though. She kept on insisting she was Ravenclaw, which is my house. Another time this happened was when I started to learn about the LGBT community. I told her about it, and she immediately went on Tumblr and started looking up the community there. She came up with being asexual. I wouldn't have minded if I hadn't mentioned how one of my close friends thought they were asexual. She kept going on and on about how similar she was to this friend of mine, blah, blah, blah. She is now bisexual and has a girlfriend. Oh, and she's also a total weeb and thinks watching anime is a personality trait. I could care less if she was bisexual, watched anime, or liked to draw. The thing that makes it frustrating is that it's obvious that she's just picking up these traits from her friends hoping that she'll be special. I'm no longer her friend, and neither are most of her former friends from elementary school. She has one friend, though, who we'll call Deborah. Deborah completely encourages the type of crazy behavior Karen shows. Deborah is also bisexual, but is a nicer person and not a total freaking copycat. Thanks for watching till the end, and don't forget to subscribe and like for more of these ridiculous stories. Love you all, and stay safe out there in that crazy world. Much love. Peace.